Today we got to talk about Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam because he reportedly is upset that fans aren't 100% locked in on this team right now. And let's be real, a big part of that is because of Shedeur Sanders. He isn't playing. Now, local journalists are even out here claiming that ticket sales are down, that seats are looking empty right now. I don't know if that's 100% true.
Jimmy Haslam has once again placed himself at the center of Cleveland's storm. The Browns owner, already infamous among fans, now carries the blame for refusing to let Shedeur Sanders see the field. For years, Haslam has been accused of meddling, overthinking, and treating the Browns more like a business experiment than a football team. But this time, the frustration is sharper because the decision involves a quarterback fans desperately want to see. Haslam isn't alone in this. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, is right beside him. Stefanski has built a reputation as
this collusion to the max, bro. This is collusion to the max. You can't hide it no more. I am done with the Cleveland Browns. Completely. I am completely, utterly, and literally done with the Cleveland Browns. How has Shedeur not taken a scout team rep? Better yet, how has Shedeur not taken a rep? I ain't talking about individual drills. I'm talking about team reps going against the defense 11 on 11 like he did in a training camp. If Shedeur hasn't gotten any reps, plus no scout team reps, what is he doing? Standing there holding a clip.
The system coach, a man married to structure and reluctant to improvise. His offensive play calling already frustrates the fan base. Now, his refusal to let Sanders take meaningful snaps has put him on the same target board as his owner. And then there's Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback stuck in the middle of the drama. Sanders brings energy, hype, and national attention. Even without playing, he has created a buzz that Cleveland hasn't felt in decades. To the fans, he represents hope. To Haslam and Stefanski, he represents risk. The fans, of course, are furious. They have spent years in the cold, watching draft pick after draft pick collapse into disappointment. They don't demand perfection. They don't demand instant Super Bowls. What they want is change. What they want is effort. And right now, Haslam and Stefanski are denying them even that. Inside the locker room, the situation is more complicated. Veterans side with Stefanski.
And it's getting a little bit nasty. So they're like, look, man, viewerships are crashing. One guy broke it down to me on Reddit. He was like, look, bro, we're not saying the fans aren't loyal. The ticket sales are high, but during the coverage, if you look at the ratings, it's been going up and down, meaning that people were turning off their television. Even though it was a close game, 16 to 15 or whatever, people were not tuned in for one reason. And I told you guys that was going to happen. Now, I don't know if some of these things are just slander on the Browns, but one thing for sure, we do know people's attention spans weren't.
They want predictability, even if it means losing. For them, stability is safer than the chaos of handing the offense to a rookie. But the younger players? They see Sanders, they see the momentum he brings, and they can't understand why leadership refuses to take the shot. The divide is unspoken, but it's real. And every day that Haslam and Stefanski delay, Sanders' legend grows. He hasn't thrown a pass in a Browns uniform, but in the minds of fans, he is already the savior. The chosen one. The player who could finally end decades of quarterback misery. The longer he sits, the more pressure builds. Not just on Sanders to perform, but on Haslam and Stefanski for refusing to give him the opportunity. This isn't just a
We have good process, okay? And if you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call, but that's Andrew's call. He made the
ball decision. Haslam treats it like optics. He worries about headlines, sponsorships, and boardroom stability. He thinks benching Sanders avoids controversy, but in reality, it creates more. Stefanski treats it like system loyalty. He thinks sticking to his blueprint shows discipline, but to fans, it shows fear. Together, Haslam and Stefanski are turning what could be a fresh start into another Browns disaster. Every press conference Stefanski gives is another frustration. Every excuse Haslam offers is another insult. Fans no longer believe in patience. They've been lied to, sold false hope, and burned too many times. This isn't frustration, it's mutiny in slow motion. And once fans turn on ownership, there's no turning back.
So you mean to tell me the Cleveland Browns listed Shedeur Sanders as inactive today? Inactive? Yo, look, man. At this point, hey, I'm a fan of Shedeur, I'm a fan of Deion, but we just need to stop caring. Because the more people actually trying to tune in to watch Shedeur, the more they ain't gonna play him, and the more they using him for clout and clickbait. They don't want the guy. The owner don't want him. The coach don't want him. The general manager don't want him. They don't want him on the team. Obviously, the NFL do not want Shiloh or Shedeur in the league, but Shedeur is good for money and ratings, or he wouldn't even be there.
The real tragedy is how obvious the solution is. Sanders doesn't have to win a Super Bowl tomorrow. He doesn't have to deliver 10 wins in his rookie year. Fans only want to see him play. They want to see if the hype is real. They want to see if the Browns finally found a quarterback who isn't another line in a jersey full of forgettable names. Haslam and Stefanski refuse, and with every refusal, they damage the trust that little by little still existed. Cleveland's fan base now sees Haslam as the villain, they see Stefanski as the enabler, and they see Sanders as the hero trapped on the bench. The story writes itself: ownership versus fans, tradition versus change, fear versus hope. And it's all because Haslam and Stefanski refuse to let Sanders step onto the field. The longer this goes on, the worse it gets. Fans are already chanting. Media is already questioning.
I also can't blame anybody who says, I don't necessarily trust this coaching staff to develop a quarterback or to evaluate the quarterback position. They have made some really oddball decisions at this position over the last several years, and I don't blame anybody for questioning, do these guys actually know what they're doing?
I don't think that's unfair at all. The thing that I would say is that they're desperate. They're very desperate. Like the entire organization is desperate. And if you really think they're going back to the coaches' offices and all getting around the table after sessions and being like, guys, Shedeur's.
Players are already whispering, and Sanders hasn't even thrown a pass. Imagine the explosion if he actually steps on the field and delivers. And imagine the disaster if he doesn't. Because make no mistake, when Sanders does play, the expectations will be impossible. Fans,
let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance with the play calling. You know you have an offensive line that isn't playing that well. So what do? Why not just play the short game so he can get the ball out of his hands very fast to run a competent goddamn offense? Outside of that, Shedeur has to be better in understanding that the offensive line that you're working with right now is not adequate. Why not allow the players that are competing for a job, in this instance, Shedeur Sanders, to finish off the 2-minute drill? Who makes that call? He makes that call. Why? Because I want the last thing people to see is the mistakes in the second.
Will expect him to walk on water, part Lake Erie, and deliver the Lombardi Trophy with a side of redemption. And if he fails, the blame won't land on him. It will land on Haslam and Stefanski, the men who dragged it out this long, the men who made hope suffocate until it turned into desperation. That is the Browns' curse. Not fate, not bad luck, but leadership. Haslam at the top, Stefanski on the sidelines, making decisions that turn opportunity into disaster, talent into trivia, and hope into heartbreak.